To persist the RAID configuration, we need to store the information about which devices make up the array, and that's stored in the mdadm.conf. When we're looking at it on a CentOS or a Red Hat system, it's going to be /etc/mdadm.conf. On an Ubuntu or Debian-based system, we'll be looking at the /etc mdadm and then the mdadm.conf. So it's just on the Debian-based systems, the etc directory has its own separate subdirectory for the configuration. But we don't need to be worried about creating the configuration or writing the configuration ourselves. We can actually use mdadm and --detail and then run the scan, and then we can append it using the two greater than symbols. Not as if we don't have anything in the configuration at the moment, we could use then the greater than, but we're better off just appending, because we can use this then the append syntax at any stage and then send it to the appropriate file. Here of course we're using the path through to the etc directory because we're using CentOS. And this brings us in nicely to starting and stopping a RAID array. To stop the array, it's quite simple. So mdadm --stop and then our device. However, it's not quite as simple when we're looking at starting the array, because we've got to be able to read in the configuration. So with this, then we go through an mdadm --assemble and --scan. In this way we're actually checking for any RAID array that's not built that exists within the mdadm.conf file. So yes, we have the stop command, but we don't have the corresponding start command. We assemble the array. So let's take a look at how we can persist the array within the mdadm.conf. So gentlemen, if you have your engine started, we will begin. mdadm -detail and then --scan. Let's just take a look at this, and then we can see the RAID array that we currently have. So the array name md0, the metadata that we're using, so version 1.2. Then we can go through and see the name. We never assigned it a name, so it's just taking the host name and 0, and then the unique identifier. If we want to send this through to our configuration, then we just append it to /etc/mdadm.conf. Once we're ready with that, it's done. We can prove this is working that if we then go through and stop the RAID. So mdadm and then --stop for our device. Now when we go through and take a look at the proc mdstat, we can see that we've got the device loaded, RAID 1, but we don't have any configuration for that. If we go back and take a look at the output of the detail and scan from our multi-disk administration, you can see that we don't have any output. Now if we go through though and do our mdadm, and this time our assemble and scan. And let's try and spell assemble reasonably correctly. We can see then that we found the MD0 and we started it with our two drives. As we go back and look at the output of the cat command, again we're back now to having our MD0. So say that it's quite easy to stop just using the stop command, but for our RAID array to be there on system startup, we then have to write the configuration through to the mdadm.conf and then the start is run with mdadm minus minus assemble minus minus scan. Now we're not going to go ahead and create a file system or mount this because we've seen enough of creating our file systems and mounting it. But what we're going to look at now is how we can simplify this whole process by using a file system that includes RAID. So we're going to be taking a look through the slides now at our BetterFS.